Magandang gabi mga kaibigan, sa aking mga subscriber, sa aking mga silent viewer dyan. Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat, shout out sa inyo lahat. Andito nga pala, meron nga pala akong mga commemorative dito mga kaibigan. Ang dami ko ng commemorative, andun, nakatabi. Nasa tube na yung iba na General Luna ko. Tsaka ang ito, si Miguel Malbar. Pag-usapan natin ito mga kaibigan. I-update na lang din natin yung presyo nila. Tsaka yung timbang para makita natin kung accurate ba yung timbang nila. So mga kaibigan, baka pwede makapaglambing ng subscribe, pa-press na subscribe, pa-press na notification bell, pa-select ng all para ma-notify kayo pag ako nag-upload ng video. Unahan natin si Miguel Malbar. General Miguel Malbar, September 27, 1865 to October 13, 1911. Former businessman, revolutionary general, was born in the small town of Santo Tomas, Batangas Province. He was the first of 3 children of Maximo Malbar and Tubercia Carpio. His father was a timber cutter by occupation and operated logging activities on Mount Makiling. Later he accumulated some money and bought lands from he planted to sugar cane and rice, and then he became a teniente del barrio sometimes in 1890 or 1891. From his mother, a virtuous woman, he inherited that strong individuality of character and resolve, and that independent spirit which characterized the man in later life. Miguel learned his first letters from the 2 school. Then he was sent to the school conducted by Padre Valerio Malabanan in the neighboring town of Tanawan. Then a renowned teacher and molder of character, and later he was sent to another school to Bawan, where he finished the secondary year of Latinidad. Hindi kaya La Trinidad to. Latinidad. During a vacation period, he married Paula Malusis, daughter of Ambrosio Malusis, who was poor, sometimes a captain municipal of the town, and Crispina Chavez. The newly married couple started an independent life at once, then an individual way of beginning married life among Filipinos during the Spanish period. Evidently, the young Miguel Malbar had less liking for books than his younger brother, Potenciano Malbar, who was sent to Spain to pursue a course in medicine, but he took life seriously. He was brought up to the way. While yet a boy, he was already a useful hand to his father in cutting grass and raising chickens. He knew his bread so well that when a cook happened to be stolen according to tradition, is spotted in a week after it was taken by recognizing its crowing in the house of the thief. The Malbars and Rizals were close friends. After Miguel Malbar got married, the oldest sister of Jose Rizal gave him 1,000 pesos with which to start a business. Undertaking Malbar was the industrial partner. It was during this period that he established a good name for himself. Both of us honest dealer and one endowed with remarkable business acumen. He gained the esteem and confidence of the merchants in Manila, and later that of Don Carlos Palanca. This wealthy Chinese merchant lent him considerable sums without any receipt whatsoever, which he invested in the sugar business. His activities were rewarded, and with his savings, he bought lands and Mount Makiling and in Santo Tomas, which he planted to orange. The Malbar orange culture was thus started and once become so famous that a variety of orange came to be called after him, and was propagated at the outbreak of the Revolution of August 1896. He was financially well established. He was elected Governor of his town in recognition of his growing influence. It was while holding this office in 1892 that he had a disagreement over a local election with the parochial priest and the provincial governor, who said with the former dignitary, when the revolution started, he disarmed the local police and successfully beat a small Spanish force in Talisay. For so afterward he took refuge on Mount Makiling. He was gaining, ang haba pala ng istorya nito ni Miguel Malbar na to. As gaming some the following 75 men and 97 rifles previously captured or seized. He presented himself in January 1897 at the headquarters of Emilio Aguinaldo, who was making a name in the battlefields of Cavite province. He was immediately dispatched to the defense of Zapote and later of Longos. After the loss of Zapote and the heroic death of Edelberto Evangelista, the revolutionary force retreated. Malbar then moved his men to Indang. It was while awaiting further order that he received his appointment as Lieutenant General in the Revolutionary Army of March 31, 1897. Upon his appointment, upon the organization of the revolutionary government and the regional government of Batangas, he was designated commanding general of the province. He directed the operation in the fighting to Santo Tomas, Ditanawan, and Limeri in the combat of May 31, 1897 at Talisay twice. He nearly fell into the enemy's hand. He was engaged in other encounters He directed together with General Trias the siege of San Temporary. General Malvar was the last to give up his arm. On the fourth day, they retreated after the fierce onslaught by the reinforcement Spanish force. Sandaling muna mga kaibigan. Ano muna tayo ng charger kasi parang malulubat na upo. Percent pa lang. Mahaba pala itong kwento ni General Malvar mga kaibigan. Kailangan ko muna mag-charge ng cellphone para hindi tayo maputol. Diretso na tayo mga kaibigan. After the fact of the Biak na Batu, revolutionary activities ceased temporarily. General Malvar was the last to give up his arm on December 27, 1897. Aguinaldo, together with an entourage of generals and officers, went a voluntary exile. Malvar was not among them. It was only in the following years that they joined the exile leaders in Hong Kong, where the revolutionists established their headquarters for the times being a plan for a second revolution. Taking into consideration his demonstrated financial and executive ability, Malvar was chosen as the first cashier administrator of the revolutionary funds. About a month after Aguinaldo's return to the Philippines, Malvar followed. He arrived in Manila on June 15, 1898 with 2,000 rifles. Thereafter, he besieged a self-organized force in Batangas, Mindoro, and Tayabas province. Upon being named commanding general for Southern Luzon, he established his headquarters in Lipa and was responsible in the organization of military expeditions to the Visayan Island, which were headed by General Ananias Jokno and Macario Adriatico. After the outbreak of the Filipino-American War, he was appointed Brigadier General in March 1899. He got succeeded engagement the American force at Muntinlupa, San Pedro, Tonasan, Calamba, and Cabuyao. Then he was appointed Division General and Chief of the Second Zone of Operations, comprising the southern province of Luzon. General Juan Calles being the second in command. Retiring eastward, Malvar with General Antonio Ricarte defended for a time the towns of Pagsanghan, Pila, and Santa Cruz. The latter town capitulated on April 10, 1899, but the regained in 2 days later, and then he was driven out finally. The superiority of Americans' arms now becoming evident, warfare in the open become costly affair to the revolutionary force. After the death of General Luna in Cabanatuan, the Filipino army became disorganized. A smaller unit under the command of general become the pattern of military organization, which territory or zone assigned to each. Guerrilla warfare become the safer tactic. General Malvar, being a familiar which is vicinities in and around Mount Makiling, he made this area in a point of launching, harassing incursion into Americans' position. But his field of operation and source of supplies became more and more limited as American position became strengthened. Then Brigadier General Franklin J. Bell adopted the policy of reconcentration, forcing various folks to live within certain zone in order to break up the supply lines of the insurgents. Sometimes in the following year, 1900s, Major J. H. Parker of the 39th Infantry USA wrote him as follows. Sinulatan daw siya. General, you have gallantly put of have had great achievement which will leave a memory in the history of our country and in the minds of our children. But sir, you have already fulfilled the duty of a soldier, and it is not possible to prevent the American soldier from carrying out the order of their superior, and is less to send them away. I will soon give orders to surround you and take you prisoner. I desire nothing but peace and prosperity in the place where I have to reside. I think it is your power to bring that peace. It's your power to bring that peace and prosperity. I would rather you would come to your native town as an honorable and honest soldier who has fulfilled his duty, this being better than to be a prisoner like General Rizal. I will feel myself flattered by the honor of receiving your honorable capitulation, and happy to see you in your own house here at Tanawan or at Santo Tomas. To this General Malvar replied on this May 11th as fine soldier, diplomat, and gentleman as follow. I and not all the force under my command are witness before the whole world of the valor of the Americans' blood, of the honor and discipline of their army, of the superiority of their artillery, and of the humanity and chivalry of her nation. But the same fact goes as to hope gently that the Americans people, deceived by certain Filipinos who misinform them that the people like annexation, be acquainted with the fact that every soldier they lose on the battlefield, the Filipino lose 100. Their very power and greatness compel them to give, as the independence which has been commenced since the first coming of the powerful fleet of the United States for the honor and glory of the American people, I must also signify to you that till the moment when our scarce bullets shall meet for the last time, the overwhelming numbers of those of your power army, our shots demand not to death of any Americans, but the freedom of the people who, for 300 years, have dragged the chain of slavery. After the capture of Aguinaldo and Palanan, Isabela on March 23, 1901, Malvar issued a proclamation regarding affect every officer or official failing into the hands of the enemy as out of the Revolutionary Army, and hence without authority or power to give orders, much less expect evidence, and any official of any class, civil or military, who submit and intends to submit to the enemies shall forthwith be considered a traitor before my authority upon the surrender of General Trias and General Trino. He assumed sole command to the revolutionary force in the south, which Pac the proclaimed on April 19, 1901 to defend our legitimate rights and to have a government all our own and an independent national life. On July 31, he assumed the full command of the revolutionary force, the action being approved by the revolutionary junta in Hong Kong. He established his headquarters in the vicinity of Taal volcano in an effort to effect his capture. Brigadier General J.F. Bell issued on December 24, 1901, a very interesting memorandum circular as follows. Haba naman pala nito ni General Malvar. The following description by General Malvar has been complied from the most reliable source in Manila and transmitted to his brigade by the department commander. Complexion rather dark, weight about 145 pounds, about 5 feet 2 inches in the height, short and heavy set, with usually thick and heavy jawbones. Hair blade with perhaps a few gray hairs, about 40 or 42 years old, wear a gold ring with a stone set on the third finger of the left hand, fit a little brood. When a 5 or 6 shoe, when wearing shoes, his well-shaped hands. His hair is liable to grow long in front, and his ears giving an appearance of small rides whisker. He usually wears a small black mustache, and while conversing with anyone is liable to bat his eyes is peculiar way. Goes about country with Indian shirts and tuser, cut off the roll up to the knee to avoid detection, and capture will effect being very simple, inoffensive, and ignorant native who knows nothing and will give a wrong name. Mount large nose, ordinary but slightly resembling Philippines nose. Eyes black, sometimes goes beetle nut. In the same circular and the interesting encoded and indult He passed the American troops and a roster under the arms, and he's ridden on the Carabao through Santo Tomas and Lipa, stopping at Lipa to talk to the president without being detected. When the troops are hunting him, to him sleep twice in the same place and sometimes change his place during the night. By the time revolutionary spirit was gradually waning, his former chief and comrades had either been killed in a battle and surrendered or captured. The following months marked no important engagement. Guerrilla warfare was resorted to and was only effective method used in harassing and surprising the American troops, which were increasing the strength from day to day. Meanwhile, Marba's men dwindled, and some of his trusted officers were deserting him. He continued yet eluding his captors and fighting when there was occasion until April 16, 1902, when after severe exhaustion and practically without ammunition and supplies with which continue the struggle, he surrendered with all his men to General Bell in Batangas. His surrender was away due to the supplication on his wife, who now and succeeded in seeing him in the mountain headquarters. By affecting his surrender, civil government was instituted by the Philippines Commission in Batangas on July 4, 1902. Once becoming a private citizen, he devoted the remainder of his life to recovering and lost fortune in order that, as he said, he might have something to leave to his family, to his wife and children were next to his country. He engaged himself once more in agricultural and commercial pursuit, and he succeeded in his enterprises. Governor Taft offered him it a seat in a government position of his choice, but he declined naively. He had not an inconsiderable part in pacifying remnants of an old spirit, restless element, and outlaws who had not altogether ceased to revenge the province of Batangas. He distributed rice and other foodstuffs worth several thousand of pesos to victims and sufferers when the Taal volcano erupted and wrought havoc in the neighboring towns and vicinity. He died of the disease in the kidney, eventually contracted during the arduous campaign of the 2 wars of October 13, 1911 in the city of Manila at the age of 46. He had the following children and descendants: Juan Bernabe, Cornel, 1914, Amelia Quintero, children Jose Antonio, Captain Picugio, killed in the action June 11, 1943 in San Pablo against Japanese. Francisco Angelita, Josepina Tomas, MDUSC 1952, Manuel UP 1951, Teresita Pam, PWU and Nelly Natividad. Mga kapatid niya na ito, mga kaibigan. And then Malbar, last word to his children were, you should respect and love to rich, but more, so much more, the poor preserve the family tie. Avoid dissension among you and always love your mother. Study for knowledge is a good companion of man. Yun na yung buhay ni General Miguel Malbar, mga kaibigan. So mga kaibigan, baka pwede maglambing ng subscribe. Papres na subscribe, papres na notification bell, pasalik ng all para ma-notify kayo pag ako nag-upload na video. Palike na rin, kung gusto nyo i-share, pa-share na rin. Si Antonio Luna, mga kaibigan, bukas na natin pag-usapan. Parang mahaba-haba rin kasi si Antonio Luna eh. Para hindi tayo abutin ng gabi na eh, alas 11 na, mga kaibigan. Salamat, mga kaibigan. Magandang gabi.